up next, bro?
Well, let's talk about the Titans' next opponent, which is Pittsburgh.
Oh, baby. That is
Oh,
the pick of week 7.
I am telling you right now,
I'm
whoever
surprised it took you
wins,
this long to get to the Steelers. I thought you'd be straight in there with the Homer decision. Like, I didn't pick the Broncos first. You did. Like, fair play to you. I thought you'd be all over
you're
it.
the guest. I picked your team first, and then we just rolled through.
Guest of honor, might I add.
Yes.
Oh, I enjoyed this.
I'm going to call this out right now. Whoever wins between Pittsburgh and Tennessee this week will win the AFC. They will represent the AFC in the Super Bowl because they are that complete of a team.
You think that they're going to go further than the Kansas City Chiefs?
Yes. I think the Kansas City Chiefs are going to get another one of those fluke losses, and it's going to cost them.
What, like the one against the Raiders?
Yep.
Which, to be fair, wasn't a fluke. The Raiders played lights out in that game. Derek Carr deserves a lot of love for that. I actually really like that franchise as well. I'm liking the look of how that's being built in Las Vegas. But that's a good shout. It's a good shout. Do you know what? I've watched the Steelers and the Titans quite a lot. I'm yet to see anything that suggests otherwise. The Steelers are fantastic. Can we just point out, like, I know you're obviously going to cream your knickers because you're a homer, but Mike Tomlin, for me, is the second best head coach in the NFL behind Bill Belichick. I think he's utterly incredible. He's a black coach, which I think is very important as well. There aren't enough of those. He is an absolute... Do you know what, right? Well, not us, we. When I say we, obviously, I'm not part of America, but I am closet American as they come. I mean, look at me. Come on. I'm a Yankee at this point. But you know what? We celebrate, and rightfully so, guys like LeBron James, okay? And he has done so much for black athletes. Serena Williams, again, rightly so. No one ever seems to talk about Mike Tomlin. Broke down some barriers. Obviously, Pittsburgh Steelers have an amazing history. Obviously, with the Rooney rule, the Rooney family have been fantastic for this franchise and for the league and for the betterment of equality, which they're still struggling with, despite the fact that, you know, their prominent players are mostly African-American still. I think that's fair to say. So, you know what? Like, Mike Tomlin, I think he's one of those guys, we're not going to appreciate him until he retires or, God forbid, when he passes on, hopefully at a ridiculously old age, because he does so much. Do you know what? He's never been he's never been lower than 8-8, has he, as a Pittsburgh Steelers head coach? That's an astonishing achievement. You know, even last season, when literally I swear to God, there was a sniper at Heinz Field. Everyone was going down for one reason or another. Honestly, it was like somebody got into like the physical training regime or something and poisoned everyone. It was ridiculous, and he still gets 8-8 out of that team. He finds incredible weapons. Obviously, JJ Watts, I believe it's his brother, isn't it? TJ Watt. He's a fucking animal. I love him. He's such a player. But
he is the new JJ.
Do you know what makes Tomlin so special? I think he'll be better than JJ, actually. I believe he'll be better when it's all said and done. But I'll tell you what makes Tomlin so special. He's the only coach I know who can get every single player to run for a brick wall for him. Yes. And he's menacing as well. He looks like he'll fuck you up, you know? Like, if you had taken Ice Cube out of NWA and put Mike Tomlin in, I would have batted an eyelid. I would have like, yeah, that's a bad motherfucker. But he's so bad. And he's so, so cool. And he's such a professional. He's intense. And when you watch the Steelers play, the identity of who Tomlin is and how he coaches runs all the way through the DNA of that team. It is always every single man to a fault, putting their body on the line, making sure things happen. And the one thing that people are obviously excited about, but maybe aren't making as big a deal out of, is the fact that Ben Roethlisberger is reasonably healthy this season. This is a guy who, you know, he's famous for getting the shite kicked out of him, constantly being dragged down. He's literally the slowest running quarterback I've ever seen. He rolls out and it's like, he reminds me a lot of the Fridge, you know? He just drags people along with him. It's like Ray Carly in The Longest Yard. They're all jumping on the back of him. Ben's like, I can make it. It's like, he's just a fucking monster.
But that's the thing, is when he does run, they can't touch him. He can elude anybody when he's running.
Yeah, he's got a remarkably quiet movement for a large man. But yeah, he's looking healthy. This team looks dangerous. And in Claypool, bloody hell. I mean, he had quite a special time of it last week. And I think from a fantasy implication, everyone was like, right, get him in there. Like everyone's trying to trade like crazy for him.
I got him.
Yeah, smart man. Do you know what's interesting about Roethlisberger? He didn't even have that stunning a game in this game. I think he was like 14 to 22, 162 yards and a touchdown. You know, that's modest. That's really modest. But he doesn't need to. You know, James Conner, which is brilliant because isn't that like Terminator, isn't it? I was like,
yes, almost.
Almost. I think it's John Connor, isn't it?
Yeah, John.
I don't care. I don't care. It's Terminator to me. I love it.
Right.
He went off on 101 yards off of 20 carries. You know, the running game was looking good. I love how Claypool, right? Classic Claypool, still gets a touchdown. He had 7 yards of offense. Off of 2 yards, rushing wise, that is. You know, people, I think, were thinking he's going to score 65 touchdowns. Got 74 yards as a receiver as well, off of 4 catches. Nice to see James Washington sharing the spoils a little bit as well.
Yes.
That's a really underappreciated player again. And you got Eric Ebron. He didn't really turn up, but you know he's another guy. Juju Smith-Schuster for the last couple of years felt like he was kind of holding everything down offensively for everybody. This season,
he's playing like shit.
He is playing like shit, but he's also really unselfish. He appreciates that he's not going to get as many carries, as many catches. You know, he's a dual threat. He reminds me a little bit of Dave Johnson in that respect. And for me, he'll come good eventually. A player with that kind of quality, I don't believe is going to be that poor that regularly. And I think that he's had to take a little bit of a back seat because guys around him are really starting to kick in. With Roethlisberger being back, being stronger as well, with the throwing arm as well, that means Schuster's kind of limited more. He's not going to get as many carries, particularly if, you know, the running game goes off the way it does. And ultimately, I think there's still plenty in the tank for Juju Smith-Schuster.
Oh, absolutely. You know, I have no problem with Juju right now. The only thing I don't like is that it seems like he says on, you know, like on his Twitter this year when they got rid of Antonio Brown and everything, he was like, we didn't need Antonio. I run better routes than Antonio. I'm faster, blah, blah, blah. Prove it.
Yeah.
Because
don't talk about it, do it.
Exactly. The last few games, he's only gotten like 3 or 4 catches.
I don't hear much. You know, you look at the weapons on other teams, their stars, shall we say, and you don't hear too much out of them. I never hear Derrick Henry talking all this shit every week. His head down, literally running through everybody, and you know that's the thing with Smith-Schuster. I think he felt that he had to kind of take because there's always other. It's interesting with the Steelers. There's always criticism if they don't achieve, and because of that, and obviously they've got a rabid fan base. Those fecking rally towels. I remember them from the 2005 AFC Championship game. It's just horrifying. It's a case of I think Smith-Schuster sort of stepped in and said, you know what, I'm gonna take one for the team here. I'm gonna speak up. You know, I'm gonna throw a little bit out there. And obviously Antonio Brown, bit of a bad situation. It's an awkward situation. It's unfortunate in so many ways. Thank God we got a different AJ Brown at Tennessee to kind of mask all those issues. The less said about, you know, Antonio Brown, the better at this point. I think, you know, the man could do with some genuine help, to be honest.
Yes.
I actually worry about him. I'm not going to just lay into it. Everyone else in the media's done that anyway. And much like Stephen A. Smith on First Take, I actually am a little bit concerned about the man's mental well-being. But yeah, no, do you know what? Positives, obviously, Steelers look fantastic. And you've got to think, you know, that match with the Titans, if both teams come at it full blast, I'm super excited. Hate to burst your bubble. I do have the Titans, which we'll do in our pick'ems later.
Yes.
What it is. I do have the Titans. That being said, I have to talk about the Cleveland Browns because it amuses the fuck out of me. Arthur Doom will be watching this religiously, looking to hear about what I say about your Cleveland Browns. So, first of all, right, Baker Mayfield is a bitch, okay? I just want to put this out here because he's getting on my fucking tits.
Yes!
Stupid fucking... By the way, mate, this is how we do facial hair, yeah? Shut the fuck up, okay? You've got so many weapons around you. You better do something, mate. You know, Kareem Hunt on the fucking run game. I know, who's the other running back who went down?
Nick Chubb.
Nick Chubb. No, slightly better than Bradley Chubb, by the way.
I was going to say Bradley's cousin.
Oh, cool.
By the way.
A lot of Chubbs running around.
Yeah.
Do you know what? That was the ultimate 1-2 run game. You know, you've got two real studs at wideout. You've got probably one of the greatest pure athletes at wide receiver who, let's be honest, has kind of got a bit too big for his boots, hasn't he, Mr. Odell Beckham Jr.? It feels like he has got, I get the impression, right, if he doesn't get targeted 50 times, spits his dummy out, gets a little bit emotional about it, and then Jarvis Landry has to step up and take the flak. And I think on his day, Landry can play almost just as well as Odell Beckham Jr. We've all been dazzled by the one-handed catches, and rightfully so. They're incredible, don't get me wrong. And, to be honest, he done well getting out of the Giants because that is just a dumpster fire at this point. But, it's the same old Cleveland Browns. They do this. They do this all the time. And as a Steelers fan, you'll know better than anyone. They rock up. They give it all this. There was a lot of talk a couple of seasons ago. Idiots like Max Kellerman were saying, "Oh, this is going to be a Super Bowl contender." I was like, no, it fucking won't. Absolutely not. I don't believe Baker Mayfield is this superstar. I think he's good, no question. I think he believes his own hype too much. I think for the first time in God knows how long, there's actual media coverage of the Cleveland Browns. People are actually paying attention to them instead of just laughing at them for being an absolute trash bag. And, sorry, Arthur Doom, because I know you're watching, bro, but it annoys me a little bit. It does. It really annoys me because, all I keep hearing the Cleveland Browns, they're legit this season. They hung like 50 points up on the Dallas Cowboys. Turns out everyone can do that. So, that's not a huge achievement looking back at it. Who are the most important people that they need to get past? The Steelers and the Ravens. Both games, they got pretty much humbled, had very little in the way of offense. Baker Mayfield doesn't really turn up in this game once again. He doesn't turn up when it's important. 10 of 18, 119 yards, a touchdown, 2 picks. Whoopee. You know what? The Steelers, they victimised him a little bit. They had their way with him. They got to him. They hurt him. And admittedly, he's picked up an injury and everyone's like, I'm not going to let him off the hook because of that. And the backup, Case Keenum, less said about him the better. Kareem Hunt, 40 yards. That was it at running. He's got to really take the load. He didn't in this game. For some reason, he had 13 carries as well. To be fair, you could say a lot of it's to do with the Steelers. They stuffed the run very well. Steelers getting back to, I don't think they're quite at the steel curtain level, but they're definitely.
They're close, but they're nowhere. Yeah. They're not vaunted like the steel curtain. No chance. No.
But the wide receiving game. I was talking about Odell Beckham Jr. He's another one who seems to be going missing in the big games. It's all very well turning up on a Monday night against the Jets or whatever, mate, and making like 3 spectacular. He was amazing. He torched the fucking Cowboys, didn't he? Everyone was like, oh my God. But then he tips up, 25 yards. Admittedly, he was, weirdly enough, only targeted 3 times in this game. And if he's the stud that he's supposed to be, I've got to believe there's issues there. I've got to believe that Baker Mayfield, Case Keenum, whoever, doesn't like Odell Beckham Jr. I feel like he must be too big for his boots because, you know what? Odell Beckham Jr., 25 yards and only 3 targets. Very strange. Very limited. The wideout game got destroyed.
I'm not going to, give him an excuse, but he was, being tested constantly for COVID because he had the flu. So...
if it's that bad, he shouldn't be playing.
Exactly.
If it's that bad. But this is also the NFL. It's like the ultimate man's game. So if you turn up and say, I've got the flu. Yeah, Kobe had the flu once, and he just fucking rinsed ass. So what's your excuse?
Right.
The great ones, they rise above that. They achieve, irregardless of things that are happening to them. They're out there on one fucking wheel. That's what we found out with Jay Cutler. He didn't have the heart. Remember him sitting on the bike, during, I think it was the AFC Championship or the NFC Championship, and he's sitting on the bike for the Bears, while they're out there struggling, while Urlacher has given his soul to try and drag this team, will them back to the Super Bowl. And you know what? I don't know. Something about Odell Beckham Jr. As a neutral, obviously I love it when he goes off. He's wicked. He's cool. He's good for the league. I love the way he runs up the field and he's like, come on. He was doing it in London, when they came over here. And, he was doing it for the Giants when they came over here. And, that's all very well and good. But I think when the Browns have serious competition, they don't do much. You know what they remind me of? They're like the Cowboys of the AFC North.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Big
stars, big shiny stars, all this kind of stuff, loads of lovely little trinkets, but ultimately just like trinkets on your fucking grandmother's fireplace, they're just there for show. They're not actually going to make you as much money as you think. You're going to pop off to Antiques Roadshow with them, and you're going to be lucky to get out of Dodge with $500.
Great show. Oh, the Antiques Roadshow. That's great. I do want to point out, though, that the Browns right now are 0-3 in the AFC North, and they barely beat the Bengals by 5 points.
Yeah, and the Bengals are a fucking bad team. I'd rather see the actual Bengals, the pop group out there playing than the Bengals.
Oh, yeah. Walk like an Egyptian.
Hey, less of that. We'll have less of that. Thank you.
Not like that. Yeah, I know. Fuck.